In July 1944, while the Second World War was still raging, representatives from 44 countries gathered in a quiet town in New Hampshire. The place was called Bretton Woods. At first glance, it looked like just another diplomatic meeting. But in reality, it was the moment when the global financial system was rewritten. Before this conference, the British pound had been the center of the world economy for over a century. London was the financial capital of the world, and the British Empire controlled trade routes across the planet. But by 1944, the situation had changed dramatically. 2 world wars had drained Britain's resources. Its economy was exhausted. And across the Atlantic, a new power had emerged: the United States. At that moment, America held nearly 70% of the world's gold reserves. Its factories were producing more goods than the rest of the world combined. And unlike Europe, the United States had become the world's largest creditor. Countries owed America money. Lots of it. So when the Bretton Woods Agreement was signed, the message was clear. The dollar would become the center of the global financial system, and the United States would become the financial ruler of the world. But history has a strange habit of repeating itself, because today, some economists believe another country may be following the exact same playbook: China. Step by step, Beijing appears to be building the foundations of a new financial order, one that could eventually challenge the dominance of the US dollar. And if that happens, it could affect every single dollar in your pocket. To understand why, we need to go back in time. Because when America replaced Britain as the world's financial leader, it didn't happen by accident. It followed a very clear pattern, a 5-step playbook. The first step is simple: become the world's largest creditor. In the early 20th century, the United States began lending enormous amounts of money to its allies. During the First World War, European governments borrowed heavily from American banks. When the war ended, Britain and France owed the United States billions of dollars. For the first time in modern history, the financial center of gravity began shifting away from London. Step 2 was building trust in the currency, and that meant one thing: gold. At the time, money was backed by gold reserves, and the United States had accumulated an enormous share of the world's gold supply. This gave the dollar something incredibly valuable: credibility. Investors trusted it. Governments trusted it. And slowly, the dollar became more important in international trade. Step 3 was creating financial infrastructure. Wall Street began to rival London as the center of global finance. American banks expanded their influence. New financial markets developed. And gradually, the world started doing more business in dollars rather than pounds. Step 4 came naturally. Britain became weaker. 2 world wars had exhausted its economy. Its debts increased. Its empire began to shrink, and its currency slowly lost influence. Then came the final step: the official recognition, the Bretton Woods Agreement. This was the moment when the rules of the global financial system were formally rewritten. The dollar replaced the pound as the world's reserve currency, and the United States became the financial leader of the world. Now here is where things become interesting, because many analysts believe China is now following a similar strategy. Let's start with the first step: becoming a global creditor. Over the last 2 decades, China has lent enormous sums of money to countries across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Much of this lending happens through the Belt and Road Initiative, a massive infrastructure program designed to finance roads, ports, railways, and energy projects around the world. Estimates suggest that China has provided more than $1 trillion in loans through this network. At the same time, China has accumulated hundreds of billions of dollars in US government debt. This gives Beijing significant financial leverage. The second step involves building trust in its financial system. And once again, gold plays an important role. Since 2009, The People's Bank of China has been aggressively increasing its gold reserves. Official numbers already place China among the world's largest gold holders. But some analysts believe the real number could be far higher, possibly even approaching 10,000 tons. If true, that would place China among the largest gold holders in modern history. The third step is building alternative financial infrastructure. For decades, the global financial system has relied heavily on Western institutions: the SWIFT payment network, American banks, dollar-denominated trade. But China has been developing alternatives. One example is the CIPS payment system, a Chinese international payment network designed to reduce reliance on SWIFT. China has also been promoting the use of its currency in global trade, in particular, energy markets. Some oil transactions are now being settled in Chinese yuan. This has led to the concept often called the petro-yuan. At the same time, discussions within the BRICS group of nations have raised the possibility of creating alternative reserve currencies. All of these developments point in the same direction: reducing dependence on the US dollar. The fourth step in the historical playbook is waiting for the current leader to weaken. And here, the numbers become difficult to ignore. The United States now carries more than $36 trillion in national debt. Interest payments on that debt continue to grow. Political divisions in Washington have made long-term fiscal reforms increasingly difficult. And while the American economy remains extremely powerful, the debt trajectory raises serious questions about the future. None of this means the dollar will collapse tomorrow. In fact, the dollar still dominates the global financial system. Roughly 59% of global foreign exchange reserves are still held in US dollars. But that number used to be much higher. In 2001, the dollar accounted for around 71% of global reserves. So the key question is not where the world stands today. The real question is where the trend is heading. If this trajectory continues for another 20 years, the balance of global financial power could begin to shift. History suggests that transitions between global systems rarely happen gradually. Instead, they tend to occur during moments of crisis. Moments when confidence in the existing system suddenly breaks. That is exactly what happened during the transition from the British pound to the US dollar. And many analysts believe that if the dollar ever loses its dominance, the transition could follow a similar pattern. China does not necessarily need to replace the dollar overnight. It only needs to position itself as the main alternative, so that when the next global financial crisis arrives, the world already has somewhere else to turn. Whether that moment will arrive in 10 years, 20 years, or even longer remains uncertain. But one thing is clear: the competition for global financial leadership has already begun. The real question now is whether the United States can change its economic trajectory before history repeats itself. Because if past empires have taught us anything, it is that financial dominance never lasts forever. And now, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Do you think the United States can stop this trend? Or does history always follow the same mathematical pattern?